You just toured this manufacturing company. We're at a time of historically high inflation, although today we got the CPI with a little glimmer of hope there, I guess, that at least didn't get any worse. But what has the feedback been as you've talked to the folks here?
Well, I've actually been talking about manufacturing for almost a decade now, and the need for this country to have a manufacturing base. You can't be a great power if you're not an industrial power. I think COVID reminded us of our ability. We always have to have the ability to make things. And it's no longer just make things for the military, that we don't want to rely on other countries, but the core essentials of things that we now need for a functioning economy and to be a world power has expanded. So we have to have the ability to make these things. It's also a source of really good, dignified work, which is important in order to have a strong country. Dignified work is what makes it possible for people to start families and own homes and invest in communities and be volunteers in community groups. It's the fiber that makes life possible and community strong. The absence of dignified work is corrosive and destructive. Manufacturing is a great source of dignified work, but we don't have enough opportunities for people to acquire the skills they need. So we have a need for dignified work. We have employers that need the workers, and we don't yet have a system that's providing those workers or those training opportunities. So it's something we're going to continue to focus on by coming directly to Florida manufacturers and talking about how can we close that gap.
All right, we'll talk more about that in just a moment, but I want to get to what happened this week at Mar-a-Lago with the FBI. I know you've been very, very vocal on your feelings about this. You've described it, compared it to a Marxist dictatorship. So just to start off by telling me what you think about all this.
Well, here's what I think about it. You have the administration of a president whose FBI and Justice Department conducted a 30-agent raid of not just his previous electoral opponent, but his likely and potential future electoral opponent. So the bar for doing that is incredibly high. To say that you are doing that because you are searching for documents, not because there's somebody being held hostage in the basement of a building, not because some drug cartel is being run out of that building, but because you want documents that apparently had already been turned over, many of them had been, is outrageous. And that discretion that comes from how you carry out that job, let's assume for a moment, and I don't assume, but let's just assume for the sake of argument, that they had a legitimate purpose behind those documents. You demand that his lawyers turn them over by 5 p.m. on Friday at this office. But when you conduct a high-profile raid, you tip off the media that it's going to happen, because national outlets were on site before local media even was. You do it with as many agents as you can come up with. You tell his lawyers they can't be in the room. You're cutting locks. You're taking safes. That's a production that's done to send a message. And the message is, we are going to target political opponents. And this is what you see in country after country around the world. It's quite typical in many, unfortunately, countries in the Western Hemisphere. For someone to take power, they use it to go after and persecute their political opponents. And then when the supporters of their opponents speak out, they say these people are dangerous. We need to go after them as well, and you criminalize opposition. I'm very concerned about what happened. It was wrong. It should not have happened, and people should be held to account for it.
You have to have a probable cause warrant. You have to go to a judge. In this case, it was a magistrate in South Florida who had to be shown, hey, this is what the crime that we think happened. Here's why. You would think that if I'm going to be the judge who puts my name on the first warrant to serve in U.S. history to search a president's home, it's never occurred before, I would want something pretty rock solid and compelling, wouldn't you assume?
Well, and you would have assumed that back in 2015 and 2016 when there were FISA warrants, which is an even higher level of scrutiny. Okay, and they got FISA warrants to wiretap individuals and go after individuals that we now know were fraudulent, that we now know that there were things stated in those warrant applications that were not true. And the people who wrote it knew it wasn't true, those agents, none of whom have been held to account for lying to the court about that. So the truth of the matter is, you can find a judge to sign an order, especially if the agents, and we haven't seen what warrants they came up with, especially if the agents wrote up things that turned out not to be true. You can also judge shop. You can also look and say, I think this magistrate is likely to write the warrant versus that one. The truth of the matter is that, do I disagree with a judge signing a warrant? I haven't seen the warrant, but I can tell you that that alone should not guide us towards believing that this is not possible, because it's happened multiple times already.
Well, you brought up accountability. I know you said you think that if Republicans take over the House and or the Senate, there should be hearings into what happened here. But when it comes to accountability, I can tell you from covering the last couple of election cycles and talking to Republican voters, those things that you just brought up, Crossfire Hurricane, Hunter Biden's laptop, just not the contents, but the suppression entirely of that story, the dossier, They feel like there is no accountability. There's
They're
a lot
right.
of talk, there's a lot of noise, and then it all gets swept under the floor.
Because it takes guts to do it, because you can't do it assuming that most of the major networks in this country are going to cheer you on. I mean, if this was the reverse, okay, if that was Hillary Clinton's home and she hadn't even been president, being raided because the FBI under Donald Trump wanted her computer to look into her laptop, it would have blown up most of the major networks in this country. I mean, they would be talking about authoritarianism. I mean, the kinds of stuff we hear all the time from the other side on these debates. But because it's Donald Trump, it's fair game in their mind. So the truth of the matter is that there needs to be the guts to take on accountability. And I always tell people, Trump was, yes, his name was probably on the warrant, Mar-a-Lago, but the ultimate target here is not just Trump, it's the political resistance. The message that if we can do it to him, we can do this to anybody. Well, imagine what we can do to you. And look, yesterday a congressman had his phone seized while on vacation. They didn't call his lawyer and say, tell him to produce the phone. We've had Peter Navarro, a high-profile situation where they, again, made a big spectacle out of coming after him and arresting him in a way that was humiliating and embarrassing. Meanwhile, we have white-collar criminals in this country who are told, can you turn yourself in at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning at the federal courthouse? Because it's all being done to send a message. That's my view. I feel very strongly about it. And the reason why I feel very strongly about it is because I think this is how you kill a republic. Honestly, what's going to happen now, why they're playing with fire is, they're not always going to be in power. And one day someone else is going to be in power and are going to feel like they now have the license to do that back to them. And now we are in this back and forth situation that makes us look like a third world country. That's not acceptable. No one should be in favor of what happened the other day. There are other ways that if it's even legitimate, which I question whether it was, there are other ways they could have done it.
Final question on this, and then I'll move on to some other things. But do you think that this makes it more likely that Donald Trump runs for president again? And does it push up his timeline, perhaps, to maybe even before the midterms that he announces?
I don't know if it makes him more or less likely to run. I have no clue about his timeline or what he decides to do in that regard. But I certainly think it has even people that I know, and that we've heard in the public square that aren't big fans of Donald Trump or maybe didn't even vote for him, have rallied to his defense or at least been concerned. When we saw statements yesterday from Andrew Yang, we saw statements from the Cuomo of New York. You'd never think you'd see that. Because I think if you can put aside the partisanship for a moment, you realize that, David Petraeus, who served this country well but broke the law, was raided. Sandy Berger, who was the national security advisor for Bill Clinton, actually stuffed in his socks, classified information. He wasn't raided. Both were charged with misdemeanors, not felonies. But somehow Donald Trump, because of some documents that, by the way, a president has the authority to declassify, gets a 30-agent raid in a high-profile way. I think people look at that and really say, this doesn't look right. And so, I think it certainly has strengthened them in that regard.
All right.